Behind locked gates and crumbling walls, these abandoned mansions hide stories no one dares to live with. Once symbols of fame, power, and unimaginable wealth, they now sit frozen in time, rotting, haunted, and unwanted. Some are tied to scandal, others to tragedy, curses, or financial ruin. Even when listed for pennies, no one buys. Tonight we step inside these forgotten homes to uncover why luxury turned into a nightmare and what secrets still refuse to stay buried. Pablo Escobar. Scattered across Colombia, Pablo Escobar's abandoned mansions are not just empty buildings, they are scars left behind by a reign of terror. Hidden in jungles, perched on hillsides, or buried deep behind rusted gates, these properties were once symbols of absolute power. Escobar didn't build homes to live in. He built fortresses to dominate. Private airstrips, secret tunnels, surveillance towers, and extravagant luxuries turned his estates into untouchable strongholds. Then the empire collapsed. After Escobar's death, the protection vanished overnight. Locals looted what they could. Fires tore through rooms once lined with marble and gold. Nature crept in, swallowing walls, cracking floors, and reclaiming land soaked in blood money. What remains today are hollow shells, roofs caving in bullet holes, frozen in concrete pools filled with algae instead of champagne. Some of these properties were partially repurposed into public attractions marketed as dark tourism. But vast areas remain sealed off, untouched, and avoided. Rumors refuse to die. Whispers of hidden graves, execution rooms, and buried cash still circulate among nearby communities. Many believe the land itself is cursed, that no one who lives there can escape its violent past. Despite their massive size and valuable locations, buyers stay away. No amount of money can erase what these walls witnessed. To own an Escobar mansion is to inherit a legacy of fear, corruption, and death, something no luxury renovation can cleanse. Today, these estates stand as grim reminders that wealth built on destruction leaves nothing but ruins behind. Escobar once believed he was immortal. His mansions prove otherwise. They rot in silence, monuments to the truth that power taken by force is always temporary and the land never forgets. Britney Spears. Behind tall gates and quiet streets in Thousand Oaks, Britney Spears' former mansion looks peaceful, but its walls carry the weight of one of pop culture's darkest chapters. Designed in elegant Italian style, the estate once represented everything the world believed Britney had achieved: success, beauty, freedom, and escape. With sprawling gardens, grand interiors, and resort-like privacy, it was meant to be her safe haven from the chaos outside. Instead, it became a silent witness. As Britney's life unraveled under relentless media pressure, invasive paparazzi, and a highly controversial conservatorship, the mansion slowly lost its shine. What should have been a place of healing became a symbol of confinement. Inside those luxurious rooms, decisions weren't always hers. Control replaced comfort, security replaced peace, and the house began to feel less like a home and more like a gilded cage. Over time, signs of neglect appeared. The once perfect grounds grew tired. The energy faded. Buyers sensed something money couldn't fix. Despite its prime location and celebrity status, selling the property proved difficult. Not because of flaws in design, but because of the emotional history tied to it. People didn't want to live inside a headline. The mansion carried echoes of surveillance breakdowns and a global debate about autonomy and exploitation. No renovation could erase that. Luxury couldn't drown out the silence of a woman fighting to be heard. Eventually, Britney moved on stronger, freer, reclaiming her voice and her life. But the house remained behind as a reminder of what fame can take before it gives. It stands as proof that success doesn't always mean safety, and that even the most beautiful homes can feel like prisons when control replaces choice. David Gilmour. Hidden behind tall hedges in the English countryside, Hook End Manor once breathed music. This grand estate wasn't just a luxury home, it was a creative nerve center owned by Pink Floyd's David Gilmour, a place where sound, solitude, and genius collided. Inside its walls, legendary tracks were shaped, late-night sessions stretched into dawn, and some of rock history's most iconic moments quietly came to life. Then the silence arrived. For years, Hook End Manor functioned as a private recording sanctuary, attracting music royalty and artistic minds chasing perfection. The studio was state-of-the-art, the atmosphere electric. But as ownership changed and time moved on, the pulse faded. The equipment disappeared, the doors closed, the echoes of guitars and voices were replaced by emptiness. Neglect followed slowly, then all at once. By the late 2000s, the manor stood abandoned. Windows cracked, paint peeled. Gardens, once carefully maintained, grew wild and overrun. The studio, once worth millions, sat dormant, its soundproof walls trapping nothing but dust and memory. What should have been preserved as a monument to musical history instead became a forgotten shell. Attempts to sell or restore the property surfaced, but none truly succeeded. The challenge wasn't money alone, it was responsibility. Restoring Hook End Manor meant respecting a legacy too large to mishandle. Buyers hesitated, unsure how to revive a place so deeply tied to one man's creative soul without cheapening it. Today, the estate stands frozen between past and future. Not ruined enough to forget, not alive enough to inspire. A ghost house for sound that once changed the world. David Gilmour's Manor proves that even places touched by genius are vulnerable to time. When the music stops, silence can be louder than any amplifier and history can fade if no one is brave enough to press record again. Burt Reynolds. Once a towering symbol of Hollywood masculinity and box office dominance, Burt Reynolds lived larger than life, and his Florida ranch was the ultimate reflection of that legend. Sprawled across hundreds of acres, the estate was not just a home but a kingdom. Horse stables, guest houses, private theaters, and endless open land turned it into a playground for fame, freedom, and excess. This was where Hollywood's elite drank, laughed, and disappeared from the world. But empires built on stardom are fragile. As Reynolds' career slowed and financial missteps piled up, the ranch that once represented triumph began to feel like a burden. Mounting debts tightened their grip, forcing him to make an unthinkable decision: let go of the place that defined his identity. The mansion was listed again and again, yet buyers hesitated. The upkeep was massive, the price was steep, and the shadow of a fading legend lingered over every acre. For years, the ranch sat in limbo, too iconic to ignore, too costly to embrace. Time crept in quietly. What was once vibrant began to dull. The laughter faded. The gatherings stopped. The house became a ghost of Reynolds himself, echoing a past that could never be reclaimed. Eventually, the estate sold for a fraction of its former value, a painful contrast to the glory it once symbolized. Though new owners came and went, the soul of the place never truly left with them. Today, Burt Reynolds' ranch stands as a bittersweet reminder that fame is temporary, fortune is fragile, and even the biggest stars can watch their kingdom slip through their fingers one silent room at a time. Michael Jackson. Hidden behind iron gates and rolling hills in California Neverland Ranch was once Michael Jackson's private universe, a place where childhood never had to end. Carousel-spun animals roamed freely, and laughter echoed through a property designed not as a mansion, but as a dream. To the world, it was a symbol of limitless wealth and imagination. To Michael, it was a refuge from a life lived under constant scrutiny. Then the dream collapsed. As controversy and legal battles surrounded his name, Neverland's magic began to rot from the inside. The rides fell silent. The zoo emptied. What once felt whimsical now felt unsettling. After Jackson's death in 2009, the estate became something no one quite knew how to handle, too famous, too controversial, too emotionally charged to be just another luxury property. Developers tried to strip it of its fantasy, removing the amusement park and rebranding it as a high-end estate. Prices were slashed again and again. Still, buyers stayed away. The stigma was impossible to erase. No renovation could silence the echoes of global headlines, courtrooms, and unanswered questions tied to the land. Eventually, the ranch sold, but Neverland was gone in spirit. What remained was a hollow shell forever suspended between innocence and scandal. Today, it stands as one of the most haunting examples of how fame can build a paradise and then poison it beyond repair. Neverland proves that some places carry too much history to ever feel like home again. Mike Tyson. At the height of his reign, Mike Tyson didn't just dominate the boxing world, he lived like an untouchable king. His sprawling Ohio mansion was the physical embodiment of raw power and excess. Built to intimidate and impress, the estate featured a private nightclub, indoor basketball court, multiple swimming pools, exotic decor, and endless rooms designed for indulgence. This wasn't a home, it was a fortress of ego, money, and chaos. But Tyson's rise was as explosive as his fall. As legal troubles mounted and financial disaster closed in, the mansion that once symbolized dominance became an unbearable weight. Bankruptcy stripped Tyson of everything he thought made him invincible. The gates closed. The lights went out. What followed was years of eerie silence. Dust-coated marble floors. Luxury decayed. The palace of a champion became an abandoned monument to excess gone wrong. Urban explorers later crept through the darkened halls, filming remnants of a life lived without limits. Broken furniture, empty pools, and rooms frozen in time. The mansion felt haunted not by ghosts, but by rage, regret, and wasted fortune. No buyer wanted to inherit the emotional wreckage tied to its walls. Then came an unexpected twist. In a move no one saw coming, the estate was purchased by a local church, where indulgence once ruled, faith took over. The nightclub became a place of worship. The chaos was replaced by community and prayer. Tyson's former palace of excess was reborn into something entirely different, something quieter, humbler, and redemptive. Today, the mansion stands as one of the most poetic transformations in celebrity real estate history. A brutal reminder that money can build anything, but only purpose can save it. Mike Tyson's mansion proves that even the darkest places can find redemption long after the champion has left the ring. Johnny Depp. Hidden deep in the French countryside near Saint-Tropez, Johnny Depp's abandoned village estate feels less like a home and more like a forgotten film set. Spanning more than 30 acres, this wasn't a typical celebrity mansion, it was an entire hamlet. Stone cottages, a church, a restaurant, winding paths, and a central square were carefully restored by Depp himself, transformed into a surreal storybook world pulled straight from his imagination. For a time, it was paradise. Depp poured millions into the estate, shaping it as a private refuge where art, solitude, and creativity could thrive far from Hollywood. It reflected his eccentric spirit, romantic, unconventional, and deeply personal. But when financial strain and highly publicized legal battles began to unravel his life, the dream village became impossible to hold on to. Listed at an eye-watering price, the estate struggled to attract buyers. The problem wasn't beauty, it was scale. Maintaining an entire village requires endless money, staff, and commitment. Price cuts followed again and again, yet still no one stepped forward. Potential buyers admired it, then walked away. Owning a village was simply too much responsibility, too strange, too intimidating. Today, the estate sits in limbo, perfectly preserved, eerily quiet, and untouched. Doors remain closed. Streets remain empty. Time seems suspended. It's not haunted by scandal or decay, but by absence. A place built for life that no longer has an owner to live it. Johnny Depp's village stands as a haunting reminder that imagination has no limits, but reality always does. Some dreams are too large, too personal, and too fragile to ever belong to anyone else again. Bruce Lee. Tucked away in a quiet corner of Hong Kong, Bruce Lee's former home is strikingly modest compared to the legend it represents. This two-story house was once a sanctuary, a place where discipline, philosophy, and physical mastery converged. It was here that Lee spent his final days refining ideas that would change martial arts and cinema forever. To fans, the house is sacred ground. To time, it has become a forgotten casualty. After Bruce Lee's sudden death in 1973, the energy that once filled the home vanished. Ownership disputes, legal battles, and stalled preservation efforts slowly pushed the property into neglect. Despite passionate calls from fans and cultural organizations to turn it into a museum, plans repeatedly collapsed. Bureaucracy won, history waited, and the house began to decay. Walls cracked, Paint peeled. Silence replaced the focus and intensity that once defined the space. The home of one of the most disciplined men in history now stood abandoned, an uncomfortable irony. Tourists and devoted followers still make pilgrimages to the site, standing outside the gates trying to feel a connection to a hero whose philosophy preached movement, growth, and evolution. Yet inside, everything remains frozen. No buyer has stepped forward, not because of the cost, but because of the responsibility. Owning Bruce Lee's home means inheriting a legacy too powerful to ignore and too sacred to exploit. Any mistake would feel like sacrilege. Today, the house stands as a bittersweet symbol, proof that even icons can be forgotten by systems slower than time itself. Unless saved, this piece of martial arts history may disappear, not in a dramatic fall, but in quiet neglect, and that may be the greatest tragedy of all. Boris Becker. Once the golden boy of tennis, Boris Becker's Mediterranean estate was meant to be a victory lap frozen in stone. Perched under the sun with sweeping sea views, manicured gardens, and a private pool, the property symbolized a life that seemed permanently won. This was the retreat of a champion who conquered Wimbledon at just 17, proof that talent, fame, and fortune had aligned perfectly. But success can be deceptive. As Becker's post-tennis life unraveled, the estate became a silent witness to financial chaos. Poor investments, unpaid debts, and mounting legal troubles began to close in. Maintenance bills spiraled, fines for illegal construction piled up. What once felt effortless now demanded money that no longer existed. The paradise slowly turned into a liability. Neglect crept in, gardens overgrew, walls cracked, the sparkle of luxury dulled into exhaustion. Eventually, foreclosure loomed, an unthinkable fate for a man once worth tens of millions. The estate that celebrated his triumphs now mirrored his downfall, standing as a stark contrast between who Becker was and what remained. Buyers stayed away, not because the location lacked beauty, but because the story was too heavy. Restoring the home meant restoring a legacy stained by public collapse. In the end, the property slipped into limbo, neither fully alive nor fully abandoned, waiting for someone willing to erase years of decay and disappointment. Today, Boris Becker's estate stands as a cautionary monument, a reminder that championships don't guarantee permanence and that even legends can lose everything when victory off the court proves harder than any match ever played. Tom Cruise. High above the world, tucked deep into the mountains of Colorado, Tom Cruise's Telluride estate was built for escape. Surrounded by endless wilderness, towering pines, and snow-covered peaks, the property promised absolute privacy, no paparazzi, no red carpets, no noise. It was the kind of place only a global superstar could afford, and only a recluse could truly enjoy. For Cruise, it was a fortress of solitude far from Hollywood's glare. On paper, it was flawless. The estate stretched across hundreds of acres, complete with miles of private trails, breathtaking views, and rustic luxury designed to blend into the landscape. It reflected Cruise's image, perfectly controlled, powerful, and self-contained. Yet when the time came to sell, reality hit hard. The mansion didn't move. Not for months, not for years. The problem wasn't beauty, it was isolation. Potential buyers admired the scenery but hesitated at the remoteness. Living there meant committing to a lifestyle of near-total seclusion, harsh winters, and limited access to city life. The asking price was sky-high, and the pool of buyers willing to disappear into the mountains was small. Price cuts followed again and again, slowly chipping away at the illusion of untouchable value. As the property lingered on the market, it became clear that even perfection has limits. Eventually, the estate did sell, but for far less than Cruise had hoped. The outcome was quiet, almost anticlimactic for a star known for explosive blockbusters. Today, the Telluride retreat stands as a reminder that luxury alone doesn't guarantee desire. Even the most powerful names in Hollywood can discover that some dream homes are simply too far removed from the world for anyone else to follow. In the end, Tom Cruise's mountain escape proved that privacy is priceless until it becomes a barrier no one wants to cross. Would you live in total isolation like this for ultimate privacy? Comment, Yes, if you would take the mountain escape, or no, if you'd rather stay close to civilization. Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz. On paper, it was a power couple's dream estate. Tucked away in New Jersey, the sprawling mansion once owned by Eddie Murphy looked like the perfect match for Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz' grand private and built for creativity. With expansive grounds, a private theater, oversized pool, and endless space for music and art, the property felt like a kingdom designed for two industry giants at the peak of their influence. But luxury doesn't always equal leverage. Despite its star-studded history and impressive amenities, the mansion quietly became a problem. When it came time to sell, interest was shockingly thin. Buyers admired the size, the pedigree, the prestige, then hesitated. The estate was massive, expensive to maintain, and carried a price tag that didn't match shifting market realities. Fame alone wasn't enough to move it. Months turned into years. Price cuts followed. Still, the house sat empty, silent, and increasingly burdensome. What once symbolized success now represented stagnation. For all its glamour, the property felt disconnected from modern luxury trends that favored sleeker design and lower upkeep. The mansion belonged to another era of excess. Eventually, the estate did sell, but at a significant loss. A quiet ending for a home that once promised dominance and legacy. The experience proved a hard truth in celebrity real estate: even impeccable taste and cultural power can't outsmart the market. Today, Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz have moved on, building lives and homes that better reflect who they are now. But this mansion remains a reminder that no matter how famous you are, bricks and mortar don't care about Grammys or hits. Cher. Perched dramatically atop the cliffs of Malibu, Cher's Renaissance-style mansion looks like something pulled from an Italian fairy tale. With sweeping ocean views, arched stone corridors, hand-carved details, and lush terraced gardens, the estate radiates old-world glamour and unapologetic extravagance. This wasn't just a house, it was a statement. Bold, iconic, timeless, just like Cher herself. At its peak, the mansion embodied ultimate celebrity luxury. Inside were lavish living spaces, a private gym, meditation rooms, and serene gardens designed for reflection and retreat. Every inch of the home reflected Cher's powerful personality and singular taste, regal, dramatic, and deeply personal. It felt less like a Malibu beach house and more like a European palace overlooking the Pacific. And yet no one bought it. Despite its jaw-dropping beauty and legendary ownership, the mansion stubbornly refused to sell. Price cuts followed again and again, but buyers were hesitant. The reason wasn't location or quality, it was identity. The home was too Cher. Its highly customized aesthetic, while breathtaking, left little room for a new owner's vision. What made it iconic also made it intimidating. As real estate trends shifted toward clean lines, minimalism, and flexible spaces, Cher's palace stood frozen in another era. Maintenance costs soared. The market narrowed. Potential buyers admired it from afar but struggled to imagine themselves living inside someone else's legend. Today, the mansion stands as a paradox, a masterpiece of luxury that time itself has made difficult to sell. It remains a symbol of enduring glamour caught in a changing world, a reminder that even timeless icons can feel out of step with modern desire. Cher's Malibu estate proves one striking truth: individuality is priceless, but in real estate, it can also be a liability. Liza Minnelli. Hidden behind the manicured streets of Beverly Hills, Liza Minnelli's childhood home stands today as a haunting shadow of Hollywood's golden age. Once filled with music, laughter, and legendary gatherings, this grand estate was a living symbol of entertainment royalty. As the daughter of Judy Garland Minnelli grew up surrounded by stars' creativity and the kind of glamour most people only see on screen. In its prime, the mansion was alive. Elegant halls echoed with piano melodies and late-night conversations. Elite guests passed through its doors, shaping an era when Hollywood felt untouchable. The house wasn't just a residence, it was a cultural landmark steeped in legacy and artistic history. But time is unforgiving. After the passing of Minnelli's stepmother, the home was left without proper care. Slowly, neglect crept in. Cracks formed along the walls. Windows shattered. Nature began reclaiming what fame once protected. The once proud mansion slipped into decay, transforming from a beacon of prestige into an unsettling relic frozen in time. Urban explorers and YouTubers soon discovered the abandoned property, sneaking inside to document its eerie downfall. Their footage revealed collapsing ceilings, debris-strewn rooms, and the ghostly remains of opulence long gone. What was once a monument to Hollywood excellence became a viral symbol of forgotten glory. Despite its immense historical value, no buyer has stepped forward to restore it. The cost is enormous, but the burden of legacy may be even heavier. Restoring the home would mean honoring a past too significant to mishandle, and that responsibility has scared investors away. Today, Liza Minnelli's former home remains trapped in limbo, neither preserved nor reborn. A silent reminder that even the most cherished places can be abandoned when the spotlight fades. It stands as proof that Hollywood history doesn't always age gracefully, and that some legacies are left to crumble in silence. Lil Wayne. Once a glittering symbol of rap superstardom, Lil Wayne's Miami Beach mansion was built to impress and intimidate. Sitting in an exclusive waterfront enclave, the multi-level estate screamed success. Floor-to-ceiling glass, a private movie theater, a state-of-the-art gym, and a resort-style pool overlooking the bay made it feel like a modern palace designed for a king of the charts. This was peak Wheezy, bold, flashy, untouchable. But luxury doesn't always move fast. When Lil Wayne decided to sell, the mansion became an unexpected problem. Originally listed at a premium price, the property struggled to attract serious buyers even as Miami's luxury market buzzed with activity. Weeks turned into months, months into years. Despite its flawless condition and elite location, the house just sat there empty and waiting. The issue wasn't neglect or scandal, it was timing and excess. High-end buyers began favoring newer builds, smarter layouts, and more flexible investments. Wayne's mansion, though extravagant, felt oversized and overvalued in a market growing increasingly selective. Maintenance costs were steep, and the price tag scared off all but the boldest investors. One price cut followed another, each one quietly chipping away at the illusion of invincibility. Eventually, Lil Wayne did sell the mansion, but at a disappointing loss. The sale marked a rare reality check in celebrity real estate. Even at the top of the game, prestige doesn't guarantee profit. A home can be perfect on paper and still fail to connect with the moment. Today, the Miami mansion stands as a cautionary tale of modern luxury. Proof that fame may open doors, but markets don't bow to celebrity. In the end, Lil Wayne walked away, but the lesson remained: timing is everything, and even kings have to take the loss sometimes. Steve Jobs. Hidden among towering trees in Woodside, California, the historic Jackling house once stood as a masterpiece of old-world craftsmanship. Designed in the 1920s by renowned architect George Washington Smith, the Spanish colonial mansion was celebrated for its hand-carved details, imported tiles, and timeless elegance. When Steve Jobs purchased the estate, many assumed it would be lovingly restored by one of the most visionary minds of the modern era. They were wrong. Despite its beauty and architectural significance, Jobs never felt at home there. The mansion clashed with his obsession for simplicity, minimalism, and absolute control. Instead of restoring it, he let it decay. Windows broke, walls deteriorated. The grand estate sat abandoned, an ironic fate for a home owned by a man synonymous with innovation and perfection. Jobs had a different vision. He wanted the house gone. Completely. His plan to demolish the historic mansion ignited a fierce and emotional legal battle with preservationists, architects, and historians who saw the Jackling house as an irreplaceable cultural treasure. For years, the estate stood frozen in controversy, caught between the past it represented and the future Jobs demanded. In 2011, Jobs won. The mansion was torn down, erased from the landscape entirely. No dramatic collapse. No restoration, just disappearance. What remained was empty land and a legacy debate that still divides opinion today. Some saw it as ruthless destruction. Others saw it as the ultimate expression of Jobs' belief that progress requires letting go of history. The Jackling house became one of the rare cases where innovation defeated preservation. Not because of money, but because of will. It proved that even historic mansions aren't immune to the philosophies of their owners. If you liked this video, leave a 1 in the comments. If you want us to change the topic, leave a 3. I really appreciate your sincerity.